So do you guys have thoughts, questions, reflections? How is this meditation for you? Did anyone get stuck on any of the letters or all of the letters?
I felt like the hardest step and the most rewarding for like sitting with was like just allowing it to be and like investigating beliefs associated with it. And then the nurturing was particularly healing. But I do really like the like guided meditations that like have that aspect. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, the allowing is a tough one for me sometimes, and my mind sort of tells me, well, if I allow this, I'm not going to fix it. The world's never going to get better. My life's not ever going to get better. But it's actually a counterintuitive thing. It's just the allowing is kind of saying, oh, this is reality now. Here it is. I accept that, and then letting your response come out of that. But if the guided meditations work for you, Erin, you know, I'll put this recording up, and Tara Brock has rain recordings, guided meditations on her website as well, that I'll link to. So,
thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I was going to say that on Monday, along with probably several million small business people, I was on the computer applying for the PPL loan, you know, the government SBA back through the bank. And there's a loan calculator that you have to do online. Well, I just couldn't get this to work for me for some reason. And I was becoming increasingly frustrated, and I could feel my chest like closing up. It was just visceral, you know, and it really surprised me because I like to think of myself as somebody who's, you know, pretty much managed to sort of separate themselves from that. And it imploded in on me in a very visceral way, and it was sort of wake up call for me. Like, I suddenly started investigating. Part of this was for me was, what am I doing? Does this really, is this a life-defining moment here? You know, to what extent do I really need this money? No, maybe I should be letting someone else who really needs this money have this money. And of course, today there was a cap, right? And within 3 days, all the money has been accounted, gone. And I had a conversation this afternoon with one of my clients who happens to be a financial guy. And he said, well, it's actually all been stolen by the big banks. You know, he's a financial advisor. He says he doesn't know one small business person who's actually been given the loan yet. And his theory is that it's been purloined by these large banks, Bank of America, JP Morgan Chase. They have very close relationships with the SBA, and it's sort of, it's comforting for me in a way, you know, because I don't really need to worry about this, because this stuff's not going to come my way anyway. You know, so why am I getting myself all upset and anxious because I can't make some loan calculator on the computer work? Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's a sort of gift. It's a gift really for me. You know, it's a gift. It's not the gift that I really wanted. It's not the gift that I was looking for. But when I step back and look at it, it's a gift because it's given me a whole new perspective on the, is money really that important when it comes down to it? What really matters here? You know, is having a few more $1,000 in my business account really going to make that much difference to my life? Probably not. Maybe I should be spending a little time talking to my friends, my family. You know, I always say nobody lies on their deathbed saying to themselves, "I wish I had more money in the bank." So,
Yeah,
thanks for letting me share that.
I really appreciate that, because it's such a loaded story, because I think those are two things, money and technology, that if they don't trigger your buttons, you know,
Right.
and the two together, that's a really big trigger. And just the way you expressed it, that you could feel your heart closing, you know, even just to know that. And I mean, you're very in touch with your heart. I know that from knowing you. But, you know, that can happen to us and we don't even realize it. And I think that's the essential, you know, I think of meditation and life for that matter. There's two essential gestures, right? One is, you know, letting your mind, you know, fall down into your heart, letting your heart rise up to your mind, right? So it's heart-mind continuity. And then the other is the, you know, the no to life, the clenching, or the yes, you know, which is kind of like the George Saunders, like, oh, this too. So just to, you know, noticing that. And, you know, even the beautiful thing of noticing, like, that it was upsetting you. Like Pema Chodron, who is a Tibetan Buddhist monk in Nova Scotia, she tells this story of this this monastery where this very, very, very difficult monk lived, that he just drove everyone crazy in this monastery. And one day all the monks were out and they had to move this road. It was a very painstaking entrance to the monastery. They had to pick up the bricks and move them and lay them down. And it was very hot. It was difficult work. And finally this monk, who everyone, you know, finds really difficult, just throws down his shovel and says, "I'm out of here. I'm done. I have had it." And he gets in his car and he leaves. And everyone is like, wow. No, he's gone. And the head of the monastery gets in his car and chases after him and brings him back. And everyone's like, oh, what? And I might be getting little details about the story wrong, but essentially, you know, the head of the monastery says, "I pay that guy to be around." Like, this is, you know, this grain of thing that's making the pearl, this little thing that's antagonizing you and causing you difficulty, that's your learning edge.
Right.
You know, and that's just what you're saying, Tony, like how this moment of, you know, this frustrating moment became this flowering of something else for you. And it's not to put aside, like, we're not bypassing everything that's wrong about the system that you just described, like that there are things to fix. It's not bypassing that. It's just your response to it.
Right.
Could you maybe clarify a bit between the allow and investigate? I'm concerned I might be conflating the two, or they kind of seem to maybe merge a little bit, even between recognize, allow, and then between allow and investigate. I find the edges a little bit blurry.
Yeah, and I think that they are blurry, and it's a construct, right? To think of it in this way because it's easy to remember.
Yeah.
The recognize and allow is, you know, is almost the same thing, unless you're recognizing and saying no. You know? But the recognize and the allow can be almost instantaneous.
Right. Okay.
I recognize you know, Tony recognized he was upset, and very shortly after he said, "Oh, look, my heart's clear," like he kind of allowed it, right? So the recognize and the allow, And then the investigate was like when Tony kind of said, oh, what's happening here? Like, this is not my usual, what am I believing here? Oh, I guess I'm believing I really need that money, or I'm believing the system is fair or should be fair, and and so but all of those things can happen like almost at the same time. So the separation can be kind of artificial, but it's a way for us to think about it.
Right. Okay.
Does that help?
Yeah.
So I guess I think of it like, like we used this metaphor in the first class of the ocean and this waves, the turbulence on top, and the deep, quiet waters down deep as like different aspects of ourselves, right? Or Eckhart Tolle, if you listen to him at all, he uses the terms the little me, which is like the me going around in my world, and the deep I, which is like your pure essence, that deep part of the ocean, your inner well. And so when we did the guided meditation last week, I'm not sure if you were here for that part of it, but in the guided meditation, we imagine an inner wisdom figure coming and offering us something that we need. And sometimes it's easier to think of it that way. Or for some people, who have devotional practices, it actually is a wisdom figure like, Jesus or Buddha, or, that you ask for this gift to nourish yourself. And that's a helpful way to think of it. So I'm not sure if I'm understanding your question right, but like for me, if a lot of my brain is working on little me, is asking questions of little me. And that's just like circular, like, and there's a lot of needs in that. Like, what do I need? What do I, especially in the time of pandemic and deprivation and, what's needed. But when the little frantic me on the top of the waves, asks the deep I, to nourish what I need, then it's a different experience. And even if you don't know what what to give the child, just the inner child that's needy, just, you can't go wrong with acceptance and love for whatever the state of that inner child is right now. Thank you for your openness with your questions.
Since you told that story about the monk who runs away from the monastery, I'm going to tell you a joke that our dad used to like to tell. This joke. He was a good joke teller, and it's not really directly related, but it's indirectly related to what we're talking about, I think. So this monastery where there's a monk, he's a new monk, and he gets the rules of very strict silence, and the abbot tells him, you're only allowed to speak once every 10 years. And even then you can only say 2 words. So he waits 10 years and he goes in to see the abbot and he says, bed hard. He goes back to his cell and waits another 10 years for his chance to talk to the abbot again. And he says his 2 words. He says, food stinks. Goes back to his prayers. 10 years later, he goes in to see the abbot once again. Now it's 30 years. And he says, I quit. So the abbot says, well, I'm not a bit surprised. All you've been doing for the last 30 years is bitch, bitch, bitch.
That's perfect.
That's great.
Yeah, thank you. I don't think I remember remember him saying that tale. That's a good one. Michael's my brother, if anyone doesn't know that.
Right.
So that I forgot the key part of that Pema Chodron story when, you know, the guy runs off, the abbot tells everyone else, we call people like that gurus. The person who causes you the most pain is your guru.
Right.
Okay, my friends. Well, so good to be with you. We'll have 2 more weeks after this, and then we'll arrive at our opposite shore. Who knows what that will look like?
Mm.
Yeah. Thank you all for being here. I really appreciate it.